Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
How
Beautiful to see you.
to see you too.
Can you hear us okay?
I can, absolutely.
Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. Well, just a refresher, I'm Savannah.
And I'm Danielle.
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Beautiful to see you, ladies.
All right, well, if you're ready to go, we can just jump in. Do you have I don't know, words to say before or questions?
No, it's a
Okay.
pleasure to be in your presence. Thank you. And I'm excited to be here with you.
All right, let's do this. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So we're so excited to dive into the 20 universal ways of oneness. But for now, just to start, if our listeners could get a little background on you, for anyone who isn't familiar with your work, could you describe what you do?
Sure. So, very simply put, I'm a spiritual teacher of the 20 universal ways of oneness consciousness. So I am here to bring the universal ways of oneness to the planet, activate them on the planet, those vibrational frequencies, and teach people about the ways so that they themselves can become the ways. That is the highest level of enlightenment that we are now able to achieve in this lifetime. And that is brand new since we have entered into the age of Aquarius on 3/23/2023. So these are new teachings for the whole next age of Aquarius that humans are able to achieve. We have been elevated, encouraged to elevate higher than we ever have before. And these are the teachings that are here to help us do that. So I am the teacher of that.
Well, first of all, I want to touch on the date you just shared. What did you just say? 3/23/2023, which
Yeah,
just happened, right?
exactly.
I'm so curious to look back on when we reached out to you on talking about this as well, because it seems so aligning. I'm like, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like I hear so many different things about when the age of Aquarius actually started. So for you, you're saying that is when it started. And so when did the universal ways of oneness come to you? Is this something that you've been working on for a long time? Then you're like, okay, but this is the time that it's really going to be important.
Oh, good question. So there's a couple of answers. There's one answer, but there's different parts to the answer. I'll explain. So I've grown up like this. Like I came into the world with the ways, not that I had the awareness of the ways. Okay. I didn't know what to call it when I was young. Um, I at some point had one of my what I call soul companion dogs. Animals and nature, very important to me. I've always had an incredibly beautiful relationship, very intimate relationship with animals, especially dogs. And I have soul companions, and they are here to help me on my mission. Why? Well, for a lot of reasons. Why? Any dog owner out there is like, I know why, I know why. But that is partially what we're here to learn is the way of equality. We think the way of equality is just gender or race or something. That's ridiculous. This is how low we are in our level of consciousness. All beings are divine souls having a manifested physical experience. Period. End. Nobody is lacks equality to the next. We have differences. We don't lack equality. So my dog Mason came into my life, and I had him for over 14 years. And he was my soul companion, and he represented every universal way of oneness. And it was the morning after he died, after I had to put him to sleep. Um, I'm crying. My eyes are swollen. I'm still snotty and can't breathe from the amount of crying from the day before and that morning. And my guidance, because I channel everything I do, is I'm guided to do it. I channel. That's what I do as a spiritual teacher. It was get your laptop. And it was one of those moments of, you've got to be fucking kidding me right now. Like now, and get your laptop. Okay. So I grabbed my laptop. I could barely see because I'm blurry and swollen. I was just like, what? And in a flash, it said, do you now see the real reason why he was in your life? And every way of oneness, boom, 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 just flashed. And every way that he demonstrated it. And all of my experiences growing up, the abuse, the this, the that, this realization, that epiphany, my first spiritual shift into awakening, all of it just flashed. And it was, now it's time to write about the ways. So when I got it in writing and I channeled the book, it was then, okay, start teaching about the ways. But it was still a pause on it. And I couldn't understand the pause. And it wasn't until I felt the shift in the age of Aquarius. I didn't know officially. Astrologers say different dates and all that all the time. You know, nobody really knows, except that the morning of 3/23/2023, when I sat in my morning and activated the energies that I activate when I start my day, I felt like we entered into a completely different dimension. And I said, that's the age of, that's it. I can feel it. It's completely different. I felt it. And ever since that moment, it was, now the world is able to receive because we've officially entered into the age of Aquarius, which means the age where the new, more elevated, enlightened teachings are to be offered and be here for humanity for the next couple thousand of years.
Wow. What an honor to have you, especially now that you've had that realization in that moment of like, okay, now it's time to teach. The fact that we are here now and it's all aligned for us to be holding space for you to talk about this. We also have a resident astrologer who comes on once a month. And it's very interesting how what you're saying aligns with a lot of what he's been talking about, how into this spring, we are going to be able to get a glimpse into what our future will look like into the age of Aquarius. And so it's just now starting. And so with what you're saying, it all is aligning. And I'm just kind of sitting here in awe, like, wow, this is what an experience it is to be able to talk to you right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting.
Well, so what is, like, can you give a definition of what these 20 universal ways are? Like, what are they?
Yeah, they are the decrees of the universe. Literally, they're the laws, the decrees, they're how the universe exists and functions. They are broken down into the ways for humans while we're here incarnated as humans on earth having our earthly experience. They are broken down into 20 ways, 20 enlightened characteristics, you could say, that we can understand and become. So they are achievable. Previously, when in history, when people talk about, or they're, kind of misunderstanding of what enlightenment means, complete misunderstanding of what enlightenment actually means. And not to mention that throughout history, not that there aren't exceptions, because we've had enlightened societies in the past, we have, but generally speaking, it was only a few, a small percentage of people could actually achieve what it means to be an enlightened being. And a lot of that, what people don't realize, especially spiritual people, listen up, spiritual people, a lot of that is brainwashing bullshit so that you don't ever actually become enlightened. I don't want to be enlightened. Who wants to be enlightened? Do you want to be the most magnificent version of you? Do you want emotional freedom? Do you want to be connected to your internal divine power and move through life from a place of divine power where no matter what happens, no matter what challenge, no matter what trauma, no matter what pain, you can move through it with the power and grace and the love that you are? You don't want to do that? Okay, then you really don't want to be enlightened. But if you would love to have that kind of power, if you would love to make a bigger difference in the world, then yeah, it kind of requires you to become enlightened. What really needs to happen is we have to learn an actual spiritual education on what that means. And the ways of oneness are achievable. They are for every person. They are, anyone and everyone can become the ways. But we also have to grow up and become more mature in our understanding of what it means to be spiritual. And it isn't about putting a crystal up your ass and meditating. It's not about being half naked, dancing around a fire. What do I want to release this year and burn it in the fire? All that crap that is immature preschool garbage needs to go away. It's not a judgment of it. It's a misunderstanding that somehow that makes you woke. We got to get rid of the woke bullshit and awaken for real. Okay. When you are truly an awakened being, you are becoming a spiritual warrior. And then that's not some meme. It's what does it take to become awakened? It isn't a path of ease and everything falls in my lap 100% time and I can be passive and don't do any hard work ever. And because I meditate with crystals, I'm spiritual. We have to get rid of that crap and learn what it actually means to become the ways. Because when we say things like, I believe in equality, I promote equality, I believe in unconditional love, except that we perpetuate the opposite of that and we are dumb and blind as to how we are doing it. Just because we're women doesn't mean we don't promote sexism, for example. But how do we do that? That's part of awakening. How do we actually perpetuate the things that we say we don't want to see in the world? And yet we are actually doing those things. I'm not, there's a problem. As soon as anybody thinks, but not me, you're part of the problem. Yes, you are, because you lack the awareness of how you are actually doing it. And that's what the ways gift to us. They gift us divine sight. They gift us a path, not a blueprint, but a gold print of how to see with divine sight, how to heal every single thing that needs to be healed within me, myself, and I. And if I can become each and every way, I then become a divine gift for every being on this planet. That doesn't come from ego. Why? Because I am now the way of responsibility. I am now the way of patience. I'm now the way of compassion. I'm now the way of harmlessness and gentleness. How is that not a gift? How are you not a gift when you become the ways? It's impossible to not be a beautiful, magnificent gift to everybody just by being in your presence when you become the ways. And then you get to live life as the divine being that you actually are.
So I'm curious, what would your definition of spirituality be? Because again, I totally agree. I think we have all these ideas and these notions of what being spiritual looks like, what
Yeah.
we need to do, what we need to look like, how we need to dress. What does it mean to you to be
Yeah.
spiritual?
So the way of truth is one of the ways. And in the way of truth, I can speak from the way of truth. Spirituality is meant to be a path, a process of authentic divine awakening. So, what does authentic divine awakening mean? It means that I have an acute level of self awareness of what my shadow self is. Every one of my mental programs, emotional programs, behavioral programs, and inner child wounds. Those 4 things make up your shadow self, and everybody's got them. I have an acute level of self awareness that when I am triggered, that means I have been pulled out of peace. Even a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a bit, I've been pulled out of peace. And I have that level of awareness. Something energetically is activating inside of me that is not quite divine peacefulness, which means I have a program running, which means in that moment, I am somehow causing harm. And if I understand that, I see what the program is. This is the gift of divine sight. I see what the program is. I own the program and I learn the science of energetics. I learn how to truthfully, authentically alchemize every single program inside of me that gets activated, that has been brainwashed, imprinted, that has been created by my trauma, my unhealed stuff. I alchemize, I heal, I elevate out of that. And then the only thing that emanates from me from there forward are the ways of oneness, 20 different ways of oneness, instead of trauma, greed, judgment, blame, victim consciousness, etc.
Mm. And this is why it's hard for me because obviously, like, quote unquote, I would say, I mean, we're a spirituality podcast. People would look at us and try and define us as, spiritual
Yeah.
teachers, and this is what you're about. But it's like, I don't really associate with that. It's like it's life. Like it's literally life. That's really
Yeah.
all it is. And
Yeah.
to separate yourself from that, you're then like putting yourself in a box. And I don't want to be in this box of spirituality. But to, I guess, to
Beautiful.
help, yeah, to help people understand, with where
Yes.
they're at, maybe we have to use that word right now. But I love what you're saying. It's like you're taking extreme accountability for
Yes.
your day-to-day moments, for your day-to-day actions.
Yes.
And you know, it's something that we talked to Ellie about actually, where it's like it becomes this constant thing where you're just sitting back and witnessing yourself. And when something comes up, you're like, okay, I'm going to take ownership for that. I'm going to sit with that. I'm going to process that. I'm going to love that part of me, trying to figure out where that came up.
Yeah.
And then, you know, again, just alchemize that
Yes.
experience into something else. I feel like I
Yes.
just had a moment like that a couple days ago, and I'm still processing and alchemizing those like deep parts of myself that I didn't realize that were coming up. So
Right.
yeah, this is really refreshing to talk to you about this.
And that is the very first way of oneness, is the way of responsibility, that
Mm.
I'm responsible for how I feel, how I act, what I heal. It doesn't mean you haven't been victimized. It doesn't mean the person in front of you is not a total asshole, hurtful, terrible. They could be, but they're not responsible for healing what was created because of what they did, quote unquote. I am. I have control over me, no matter how horrible anybody is to anybody on this planet, because people are. Look around. It's like people are not so kind all the time. But if and when they are, I, in the way of responsibility, take full 100% ownership, radical ownership of my own healing. Nobody's going to heal me but me. So when I do that, I live as a free person. That's what it really means to be a sovereign being. And we have to remember something, that in everything that, you know, we teach, that I teach, that we offer at, you know, Masters of Self University and our coaching programs, all at the center of all of that, other than connecting to your power and coming back home to you, is the truth that we are, all of us, are divine souls, number one, having a human experience, number two. We are souls and we are human. We are both. Completely unconscious people are human. They have no idea, no awareness of their divinity. But a lot of spiritual people who think they're so awakened go on this spiritual path of woo-woo crazy shit. And then they're like, I'm not human. I transcended all of that. That's the dumbest bullshit I have ever heard.
Yep.
It's spiritual ignorant. You can't transcend your human self. You're here in human form until you die. You can't do that. We are both. We are having a human experience for a reason. We are here to experience the humanness of what it means to be a person. We are meant to have a human experience. We're not meant to be here and not have a human experience. That's ridiculousness. When we don't have human experiences, guess what? We're back in our original form, formless, energetic being, and we don't have a body anymore. We're here to be a divine human, and that is the integration that we need to do with what we think spirituality is versus what it means to be an awakened being authentically.
I love that. This is a conversation that I feel like keeps coming up for the two of us. It's like the more we dive into this topic, it's more about just being human and less about, like you said, trying to transcend to this different level. Because again, what's the point? We're here in human bodies for a reason. We're here to do a certain kind of work. Otherwise, again, we'd die and we'd go be there for a little bit. So we have talked about a few of the ways of oneness. Could we go through maybe just giving like a super brief description? Because I know there's a lot, just so we can kind of understand a little bit of each of the ways.
Yeah, sure. So, Universal Way of Oneness, number one, is the way of responsibility. And that means I am responsible for me always. How much I heal, how awakened I become, how I show up in the world. When we are able to master the way of responsibility and take responsibility for everything, it doesn't mean you haven't been victimized or harmed, but it is my job to heal myself. So, and to grow up and mature, right? So that's the way of responsibility. That leads us to, when I can be more responsible, divine definition of it, I then naturally, as a byproduct, start to be able to be more patient. The way of patience is number two. When I am the way of patience, it allows me to pause, doesn't it? If I can pause versus just knee-jerk react to things, that leads to the third way. The third way is the way of surrender. The way of surrender means zero resistance to this, to what is zero resistance, not a little bit of resistance. Zero. Why? People don't realize their power. You're actually starting to connect to your divine power when you become the way of surrender, because that means I am now in flow with the universe. And if this shit going on over here is something I don't like, I don't want to be experiencing this. This is an awful life situation I'm in. If you have resistance, you are locking that into your reality. If you become the way of surrender, that means you can flow out of what you are experiencing. And it can be one of the hardest of the lower ways to achieve authentically. I'm in surrender. I can read energies and people, and they are often very much in resistance to what is, even our painful emotions. I don't want to be feeling this right now. It's okay that you don't want to, but surrender to it and feel it. It is the only way to authentically alchemize anything. Can't resist what you feel. That's shaming your own emotions. Why are you shaming yourself? We don't realize we do those things. When we're the way of surrender, that leads us to the way of truth. If we are in full flow with what is, with the universe, then our divine sight activates and opens. We can see the universal truth. None of this my truth bullshit. Sick of hearing it. I don't give a crap what someone's truth is. My truth, my truth. You want to know why? My truth comes from ego, shadow self, programs, wounds, comes from egoic perceptions and misinterpretations of other people. Get rid of the my truth nonsense. It is garbage. There is a universal truth in all situations. I don't want my truth to be a part of anything that I contaminate in this world. The universal truth is what sets us free. So to become the way of truth, we had to have been in full surrender first. Truth leads us to the way of presence. Full presence where I can actively listen with no judgment. The way of presence leads us to the way of connection. That's divine connection. Connection where you energetically connect to your higher soul, because that is your divine self, and simultaneously connect on an energetic level, not a concept, to the heart and soul of Mother Earth, because that anchors us in to our human experience. Divine soul, human experience. We want to be anchored on Earth, not in some woo-woo la-la land where we're in fantasy world with spirituality. The way of connection leads us to the way of compassion. The way of compassion. Imagine you really screwed up and you hurt somebody, and what they met you with was compassion instead of judgment. What a divine quality to have, to give my own pain, my programs that need to be healed so I can elevate as a human, to give myself compassion instead of shaming my own pain or my own emotions. Imagine that. Compassion leads us to number 8, harmlessness and gentleness. That is a predominantly divine masculine energy. Harmlessness and gentleness is more of a masculine energy than any of the other energies. Masculine energy is here to offer safety and security, not domination and all this like masculine energy, leadership energy. Ask me about that later. It's a little fucking bullshit. You got to get out of that crap. Harmlessness and gentleness leads us to equality. If I am harmless and gentleness, then I can actually see one for the first time for real in the way of equality. The way of equality leads us to the way of trust. When we can truly trust one another in safety, that leads us to the way of honoring. Imagine what it would feel like to truly, genuinely be honored by another, to honor yourself. You can't honor another if you don't first honor yourself. Remember, this is oneness consciousness. If I'm excluded from the equation, it's not oneness consciousness. If you're excluded from the equation, it isn't oneness consciousness. The way of honoring leads us to selfless service. And no, that doesn't mean you give everything fucking away for free. Get out of that scarcity spiritual bullshit that's been brainwashed to keep people low and not actually elevated. You can be very abundant as a spiritual person. So selfless service doesn't mean I have to renounce everything and give everything away for free. Remember, this is a real spiritual education, not pseudo spiritualism anymore. We're waking up for real. Selfless service leads us to the way of loyalty, which what are we loyal to? Usually a bunch of crap. I'm loyal to the abusive relationship I won't leave. I'm loyal to the abusive family members because that's my mom. Well, if she's fucked up and crazy and abusing you, why are you loyal to her instead of being loyal to your healing, your elevation? Why are you not loyal to a better, more powerful path? And realize in oneness consciousness, what you should be loyal to is all of humanity, all of nature and animals. Some of our family members, which means all beings on this planet. That's the way of loyalty. All of us are family members. Just because you're my family member, I might not want you over for Thanksgiving dinner. That's not disloyal if you are destructive. That just means that I am loyal to what is healthy for all. And sometimes that means putting a boundary in my hand up and saying no to you. We have to reconfigure what it means to be quote unquote loyal. What are we loyal to? Healing, elevation, oneness, then you're on the right path. Anything else, you're creating more dysfunction in the world. When we can achieve the way of loyalty, that's what leads us to unconditional love. I want to mention that we are on way of oneness number 14, unconditional love. You haven't mastered those previous ways. You don't have the slightest clue what love actually is. Love is a way of being. It is a state of being. It isn't some feeling. And we need to grow up and grow out of, it's some feeling I have when I'm around you. No, that isn't. It's most likely lust. So get out of that shit and actually learn what unconditional love is. We need more loving people on the planet. Unconditional love leads us to the way of humility. The way of humility, the divine definition, doesn't lack confidence. You are the most confident, divinely confident person in the world, which is why you can't give a shit if you are the center of attention or not. It makes zero difference. Humility isn't, I'm always last. No, you're a brainwashed, subservient, weak little thing who thinks that if you put yourself last all the time, that you're going to get love that way. Wake up, dismantle the paradigm, and become confident in who you are as a divine being. The way of humility does not lack confidence. The way of humility, when we can master that, that's when it leads us to the way of integrity, to be integrous beings for real, to never waver, to be trusted whether anybody's watching or not. The way of integrity leads us to the way of forgiveness. The divine definition of that is there is nothing to forgive. There is absolutely nothing and no one to forgive. That can be a hard one to comprehend, but that person really did this horrible thing. I know. I'm not saying they didn't. Yes, they did. I'll be the first one to say what happened over there was really fucked up. And yet, if I achieve all the ways of oneness up until the way of forgiveness, which is number 17 out of 20, I have fully healed every single aspect of my pain, my trauma, my wounds, my programs, my shadow self. When I heal all of that, what the hell is there to forgive other than nothing? That is the divine enlightened definition of the way of forgiveness. That then leads us to the way of purity. I won't put toxins in my body, physical body, spiritual body, mental body, emotional body, just simply won't do it. I love myself too much for that. So anything I see unpure, and that is not some religious dogmatic definition, by the way, get rid of that fucking crap. You don't have to be a goddamn virgin to be pure. All that brainwashing shit's got to go. That's the way of purity. The way of purity leads us to the way of wisdom. Open up and connect to the wisdom of the universe, not knowledge. Knowledge is not wisdom. Knowledge keeps us trapped in mind. That's got to go. Wisdom opens us up to receive everything and anything we can from the universe to guide us in this human lifetime. And the final way of oneness is the way of harmony. What it truly means to be in the way of harmony with one another, in oneness with one another. When you've achieved all of those ways of oneness and mastered them, you can't not be in harmony with all things, with all situations, with all beings on this planet. And once you really master the way of harmony, you become a harmonizer. Your very presence activates and transforms other people's energies and vibrational frequencies just by being in their presence. That is the highest form of enlightenment we can achieve. And it is something that this planet desperately needs. So I, of course, am going to encourage everybody to become the ways of oneness.
Wow. First of all, thank you so much for breaking that down. I mean, you're so well spoken and it's so easy to like comprehend each, subject. So thank you for that. I'm curious, do you use this as like you have an experience, you're triggered, and you kind of go through each one in your head and you like work your way down? Or is it more like you try and focus on not mastering, because I'm sure this is like a lifelong practice, but going through each thing and really focusing, okay, for the next week, I'm going to really focus on this aspect and then I'm going to move on to that. Does that make sense?
It's
I'm
beautiful.
sure you can do
Yes.
it both ways, but is there a way that you prefer for people to integrate this into their lives?
Yeah. So there's two steps. There's two main steps. To go to the first floor, right? You walk to the first floor, elevator broken. You have to go to the first floor and you're supposed to go and see everything on the first floor before you can go to the second floor. The first floor is what I call at my corporation, Masters of Self University, the power within. Okay. So the first part is actually I'm triggered. What programs am I running? What mental programs, emotional programs, behavioral programs, inner child wounds? What is the core wound that needs to be healed? You become literally an alchemist, energetically transforming all the things. Just seeing the program doesn't transform the program. It's not enough. Just seeing my inner child is activated, that's great. That's the first step. It doesn't actually energetically transform that child from continuing to being activated for the rest of your life, still showing up as a child. So you have to learn energetically how to actually transform. These are energies that are being activated within you. Energy never dies. It does change and transform. So energetic science is at the basis of everything that I teach and that we teach our clients to do in our coaching programs. So you have to learn that part first. Otherwise, and I'm simplifying this, the ways of oneness aren't even achievable. If you don't learn how to work with energy, because you are energy, your thoughts are nothing but energy. Your pain, your traumas, those are just energies. They're just programs running. So you have to learn how to actually work with energies, transform them into a higher vibrational frequency, and learn how to feel the difference. When you do that, it's like, oh my God, now I'm triggered, I'm activated, or I have a challenging situation. What way of oneness am I lacking? And then you can start to use the ways. Each vibrational frequency comes in now because you already learned how to work with energy. It now amplifies that like 1,000-fold because you've done your homework. It's like going through graduating high school. Because you were able to graduate high school, you now have the ability to learn in college and get a college degree. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have that foundation first and really understanding subtle energies. Boom. Then the ways of oneness take you to levels that you can't even imagine just hearing about them.
Can you speak on how would you describe transforming energy to someone? Like what is that process of alchemizing a trigger or an emotion? Because I know you're speaking about that, but some people may be like, what? Like, how do I alchemize a feeling?
Yes. So let me say this first. I have to preface it by saying it is a step-by-step process to learn. It is an experience. Okay. This is really important to hear this. It is an experience you feel. So what is critical to understand, it's not like, oh, just do this. Here's step 1, step 2, get rid of the 5 best hacks bullshit that's out there. You can't do this work with that superficial surface layer stuff. You go with a professional, you go step by step because the professional can literally feel inside of you if you are alchemizing the energy or not. And then they point out right there, do you feel that? Yes. What do you feel? I feel this, I feel that. Put words to it. What words are coming to you that you think you're experiencing? And you're literally feeling different energies. So that's a step-by-step process to learn what it means to actually alchemize. So different energies, different emotions, different programs you're running have a different texture to them. It's no different than putting several pieces of cloth in front of you on a table. One is a piece of Velcro, one is silk, one is, whatever. And you're touching with your eyes closed, each one. You can feel with your hands the different textures. So to really authentically alchemize all these energies, the pain, the traumas, the anger that I have, the whatever, the scarcity issues I have, you learn how to feel that energy in your body and identify it. Once you can identify it by feeling it, that's it right there. Beautiful. Now, simultaneously, what we teach, energetically, how to connect to the center of the center of the center of your heart chakra. So we take you step by step, connect to the center of your heart. How do you do that? You learn step by step, again, by a professional, because they can feel if you're doing it or not. And the second you actually are doing it, they can say to you right there, now just feel. Sit in this and feel what this energy is. Why? Like closing your eyes and feeling the difference between the Velcro versus the silk. Feel the silk. When you feel that energy in your body, now you know you're connected to your heart center. So how do you alchemize energies? Never, and I mean never, is anybody have the ability to alchemize anything energetically if they are not connected to their heart center. Doesn't exist. You know what they're doing instead? Translocating. What does that mean? moving energy temporarily away. That is not transformation. Just because you've learned energy healing doesn't mean you're transforming anything. This is where we lack true spiritual education. It means you're moving energy. So what you learn in our programs, what energy actually is, all the different frequencies that you're feeling that are first part of you, your programs, your traumas, your wounds, and your heart energy. And then it's an experience to feel, oh my God, I am alchemizing this right now. And then you learn the difference between true alchemy, which is permanent healing. If it's not permanent, it isn't alchemy. And you learn the difference. You can feel the difference of, but I feel so great after yoga, or I feel so great after a workout, because you temporarily moved energy. But when you learn the work that we teach at Masters of Self University, you're like, so I feel better for now, except it isn't gone. And you can now feel in your body and your energy system, but it isn't gone. So I have more work to do to actually alchemize it. So it is a process that takes a while. You have to be willing and devoted to learn. But if you do, you set yourself free. You're bulletproof at this point.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot. I feel like writing the new narrative for your energetic body to like become accustomed to. Like, I feel like within myself, like it's one thing to really process and learn it, but then also, like you said, it's going to take time, where it's like, you
Yes.
may have another experience. You may think I healed this, I processed this, I'm good.
Yes.
And then another trigger happens and you're like,
Yes.
okay, maybe I didn't. So you sit with it again.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's interesting too, because I feel like when you're talking about all the different ways, I've had moments in my experience where I feel like I'm feeling all of those things, correct?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
at one point, something like throws me off my path. And it's like,
Yes.
okay, so it's interesting now to have these universal ways to look at and say, okay, where am I on the scale? Like you said, what am I feeling in this moment? And
Yeah.
kind of targeting that specific way.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
You got it. And where do I go from here?
Mm.
And it's putting an end to numb it, escape, avoid, ignore, grab your device. It's learning how to become powerfully divine beings, which means, oh, well, this pain in here really sucks. Oh my God, this grief is awful. I feel like shit. This is the worst feeling in the world. And I am no longer going to run from it, because that's what keeps us weak and powerless. That is what keeps us more easily influenced, conditioned, brainwashed, confused with what's going on in the world, versus it doesn't matter what you chaotic, crazy powers that be want to try to do. I am connected fully to my divinity, and I've healed myself. I'm completely healed and whole. So I have the power of the way of wisdom on my side. You lack that, or you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. I now have the power to help influence change for real on this planet. That's the difference.
When you're saying all of this other thing, it's kind of comical coming up within me, but I've just been like, can you speak on how or what your belief is on, like, sometimes I feel so exhausted from doing all of this. I'm so tired. I'm like, this takes so much out of me, but there's no other way to go about it. You can't avoid it, but it's hard to express like how tiresome it can be sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's what is, when we are authentically transforming energy, and the energy meaning our quote unquote negative stuff, right? Our traumas or unhealed stuff. Okay. We are expanding into a more capital L light being at the molecular level. Your DNA changes. Your cellular structure holds more light. You're expanding as a being. Okay. Really remember that, because we have so much stuff to heal, usually for a long time. So what happens is you start to heal, you really truly alchemize a layer, 12 layers, whatever it might be, right? Of whatever's in there, whatever wound is in there. You alchemize some layers. And what typically happens at first, oh my God, I feel light. I feel lighter. Holy crap, I can feel it. I feel amazing. I feel powerful. I feel wonderful. Oh my God. And it's this reaction of like, oh, this is amazing. I love you. I love you. I love you. Remember, in 3 days from now, what I've told you is going to happen. And what happens after that is what feels like, this isn't accurate, but this is what it feels like. I am exhausted. My body crashed. You feel like you've come down from a high. You feel like you're crashing. Actually, yes, it feels that way. It isn't what is actually happening. I want you to think about this for a second. If you go to the gym, you're like, I'm a little out of shape, kind of let myself go a little bit, need to be a little healthier, need to treat my body better, going to go hit that gym. And you go to the gym and you hit it hard and you do a really hard workout, like you kill it. And then you're like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm doing it. I don't care how much this sucks right now. Like I'm doing this for me. Right. And then you leave the gym. What happens like the next day? You're like, I don't know. I got to put a diaper on. I can't squat on the toilet to get a pee out. Right. You're like, I can't even get up and down off the toilet. What the hell did I do? Did your body get destroyed? I mean, like literally in a negative way. Did you hurt yourself? No, you expanded, you strengthened. What is the side effect of expansion? Pain. Ooh, what is the side effect of expansion? Pain. In human form, we have a side effect of feeling a pain because we just expanded. And the physical body, when it elevates and expands, you will have side effects for a while that I just expanded. And now I slept for 14 hours and I didn't even get high. I just slept because I became more of a light being, more of my divine self. That will happen until you cross a certain threshold where you are more light than you are dark. I'm going to say this in a couple ways. You are now more light, more elevated compared to the amount of shadow self wounds, negative programming that you have inside of you. Once you cross a certain threshold and you tip that scale, those side effects don't happen anymore.
Mm. Wow, that's so validating because I think so many people experience that and
Yes.
and the depiction you gave of going to the gym and like having your muscles be so sore and you can't move the next day.
Yeah.
I
Makes so
think
much sense.
it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, whether you've, processed any part of your inner self or inner, just doing reflection on yourself, it
Yeah.
can really feel like that. Like you said, you feel really
Yeah.
good one moment and then the
Yes.
next moment you're just like crashing.
Yes.
I also feel like, for the most part, I feel amazing every day, really, ready to go after life. But then there's moments when, like I
Yeah.
was speaking about right now, like this week in particular, something's come up for me that I was blind to my entire life.
Oh, yeah.
And, really sitting with that and being kind of in awe that there was this wound that I hadn't looked at. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm so, reflective and I look inward all the time. But there was this thing that I guess I just wasn't ready to look at yet. Can
That's
you
so
talk
key.
about that as well?
Yes. I love that you said this. This is so beautiful. This is really key. So here's one of the most, I'm a little biased. This is just my opinion. Okay. This isn't a divine truth. This is just my opinion. But one of the most beautiful things about this is when you really do this work, you are becoming more powerful, more powerful, more powerful, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, energetically more powerful all of the time. Okay. So the beautiful thing that happens is once you reach a certain level of quote unquote power, that's divine power, energetic power, now you are powerful enough to see that wound that you've never seen before. Why? Because before it would have destroyed you.
Hmm.
You wouldn't been able to handle it before. It is a beautiful sign of growth when we're like, holy shit, I've done all this work on myself. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, what the hell is that? It was in my blind spot. Oh my God, this is so scary. No, change perspective. We have to change perspective. This is beautifully magnificent. It means you are now powerful enough and capable of actually healing it. That's why it's showing itself to you. It is a beautiful sign of growth. So as painful as it can be, we embrace it. We bring that into our heart. We learn to sit with that with love, no judgment, the way of surrender, the way of compassion, the way of unconditional love, the way of harmlessness and gentleness for whatever this is. And that allows us to heal it, love it, alchemize it. It will be there with you as long as it needs to feel your love, which is why the way of surrender is so critical. If you're in resistance to it, you're trapping it. And then the pain and the suffering lasts a lot longer. When you're surrendered to it fully and you offer unconditional love, harmlessness and gentleness, loyalty, compassion, all the ways of oneness, then what you're really doing is saying, I see you, I validate you, I honor you, I'm giving you a voice, I am hearing you, I am here in presence, I'm here to actively listen to you with no judgment. And when I can offer that level of divinity to this will stay here, whatever this pain wound is, it will stay with you as long as it needs to fully feel 100% loved and validated by you. And once you achieve that, it has no reason to be there anymore. And poof, it's gone.
Mm.
I love that. It's so silly, but I keep picturing an onion, like peeling back the layers, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it must be done. And then it's like, oh, no, there's just another layer. We got to get a little bit deeper before we get to the
Yes,
center of it.
And like
exactly.
an onion, it gets tighter and tighter where you can't pull it back as easily.
Yes.
It takes a little bit more effort. And
Yeah.
again, speaking
Yes.
on my own experience, it's like, you know, the trigger, I can remember the trigger when it happened for myself, you know, and it's now been almost a full week. We had to postpone an interview at some point during the week as well, because I was like, I'm exhausted. And I
Oh,
know
yeah.
Danielle can feel it too. And it's like, you just, like you said, surrendering to it and like
Yeah.
giving it all the attention it needs. And I've moved through other things in my life and alchemized other things. And so it almost becomes exciting because you
Yeah.
know that it's not, you don't have to fall into the doom and gloom of like, oh my gosh, what am I feeling?
There
It
you
can be
go.
exciting because you know that there's going to be a new version of you on the other side.
You got it.
Mm.
You got it. And that is so true. So if anybody is still stuck out there, but when I get triggered and I feel it's just pain and it's awful and I get the anxiety and I get depression and just keep healing or get the professional help to heal and make sure you're actually healing for real, truly, because you really do get to a place where it's like, oh my God, this hurts. I don't like this. I am so excited to be here. And you're crying. But it's like, but I'm so happy I get to heal this part of me. This wasn't going to celebrate this as soon as I'm done crying. You really do get to a place where it's like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. This is showing itself. Hello, you. Oh, hi. Look who showed up today. And you just love it and embrace it with the power of your divinity. It's not dreadful. It isn't scary anymore. It's just, oh my God, I didn't know that was in there. Hi. Let's do some work together. And it's just this oneness, this embracing with love. So it is exciting to be able to heal ourselves and know that once we actually heal on an energetic level, we elevate higher every single time. That's beautifully exciting.
Yeah.
I love that.
One thing that you mentioned, or at least when we were reading up on you, something that you mentioned is the golden age of harmony and how these, 20 universal ways are leading us to the golden age of harmony. Can you speak on what that is?
Sure. Yeah. I call the age that we're in now the golden age of harmony, or the age that we can create. Okay. That's not the astrological age of Aquarius. That, astrologically speaking, yes, we are in the age of Aquarius. What we are meant to create as elevated, highly conscious, enlightened beings, we are meant to create the golden age of harmony. Think about harmony. The way of harmony is the 20th universal way of oneness, the 20th one out of 20. When we are able to become each and every way, humanity elevates to become the ways of oneness and actually live in oneness consciousness, we will have created the golden age of harmony. This isn't a passive process. This isn't a, oh, I'm going to sit around and wait for the golden ages here. That's a load of crap. Astrologically, the ages are the ages. We just finished the age of Pisces. We are now in the age of Aquarius. That's passive. That happens whether us humans are alive on this planet or extinct. That still continues, right? But the golden age of harmony is meant for us to co-create together by becoming more elevated, more highly conscious, more loving beings who are heart-centered versus mind-centered. When we can achieve becoming the ways, we will have created truly an enlightened era for ourselves to experience. And that is the golden age of harmony. We've created an enlightened society, global society, where we all live in harmony together. We have to actively create that and do the work and the effort and have the devotion to create that together. It isn't going to happen by us sitting around just wishing for it or meditating on it.
Yeah. And as we're moving into this next phase of things, I know the universal ways are kind of a package deal. It's not like, oh, just take a couple. I know you kind of go through the whole process. But would you say there's collectively maybe a few that we really need to focus on right now?
So it's, of course, as you mentioned, all of them. We have to achieve all of them.
Right.
However, I will say they are not strictly linear. I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm about to say, but there is a linear approach to them, which means if you have not achieved the very first way of oneness, which is the way of responsibility, there's no way in God's green earth you're unconditional love. Yes, I'm unconditional love because I'm a spiritual person. Get the fuck out of here. No, you're not, because you don't even know what it means.
Well,
That
and
is his fault.
yeah. And when you're saying that, I'm thinking of, because one thing that I just is really hard for me to be in the presence of is anyone with victim mentality or victimhood.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the exact opposite of the way of responsibility, correct? So I'm like,
Yes.
you got to get past this whole, like, I'm a victim to myself in my own
Yes.
life.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly it. So the number one most important way, the way to start is number one, the way of responsibility. Because again, I love what you shared, which is that victim consciousness stuff. It doesn't mean you haven't been victimized.
Mhm.
That's how low we are in our level of consciousness. But they did this, but you did. Yeah, I know. I'm not here to tell you otherwise. I see the shit going on. I see the shit throughout thousands of years. That's why I'm here in this lifetime to offer the ways of oneness. We desperately need them. That's why they're here. So it doesn't mean that stuff didn't happen. It means just because I was victimized once doesn't mean I drowned myself in weakness, powerlessness, and victim consciousness. It means I rise above because I have a choice. You can't hold me down. You can fucking try. No matter what you do to harm or hurt, I'm going to rise above because I'm a divine motherfucking being. Are you? Like, get out of the victim consciousness bullshit and this passivity bullshit. And I'm going to meditate my way to the top bullshit and get to work. We need more people on this planet who are spiritual warriors. You're not a warrior. I don't care what you wear. I don't care the robes you put on. And I don't care you dance around with crystals all you fucking want to. You are not a warrior because you say you are. You are a warrior when you are the way of responsibility and you become each and every way, which means I don't care what you've done to me, my responsibility to myself and to all of humanity. Why is it both? Because I am oneness consciousness. I will heal myself. I will elevate myself. I will become more divinely powerful because I am then the gift to myself and to all of you. So we start with the way of responsibility because that organically as a byproduct leads us to the next and the next and the next and the next.
Mm. Well, one thing I'm very curious about is kind of what is your opinion or outlook on the state of the world right now? I know you said at the beginning that this is the time you feel like the collective can start digesting these 20 universal ways.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm curious kind of like what you see when you look at the collective. Like, what is your observation?
Yeah. So you cannot authentically heal anything that you don't see, that you don't own, that you don't, first way oneness, take responsibility for. Which is why it seems like, to a degree, it's truth that all of the darkness is coming to the surface, isn't it? All of the horrible, awful things that we are, that we've been brainwashed in, the negative, like we say we're, trapped in wake up from the matrix. There's more than one matrix. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There's not just one, by the way. That's another topic for another time. But it's awakening means just like when we heal ourselves in an authentic way at an energetic level. That's what we teach, right? In Masters of Self University. Authentic healing means at an energetic level. And that never means you don't see or own or take responsibility for what is inside of you. And it doesn't mean it's blaming or it's your fault. It does mean this is here, way of surrender, flow, zero resistance to what is. Oh, look at this. This is here. This pain, this terrible program, this systemic misogyny, for example, this is here. We need to bring it to the surface. So things always seem to get worse before they quote unquote authentically heal. I won't just say get better. The reason is we have to bring up the shit, right? We have to bring it up to the surface. That's where, when, how we as powerful beings can alchemize the very systems that have been locked in place for so long. We bring them to the surface. Now we can deal with them. You can't change it. You can't heal it. You can't deal with it in a healthy way if you yourself are not divinely healthy, powerful. Becoming the ways allows you to see the shit and then actually transform it. Just changing it isn't good enough. That doesn't mean transformation is happening.
Mm. And as you're saying that, I'm picturing like the collective itself is its own entity.
Yes.
So it's like it'll go through the same transformation we've been talking about the past,
Yes.
Episode.
Yes.
And it's going to take, like you said, that part where you're like really in pain and you're like, what is happening? But you have to sit
Yes.
with it rather than just turn away from it. And I
Yes.
feel like that's the place that we're all at now with the collective. And it can be really uncomfortable because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people, we've been raised with these programs or the matrix or whatever, the systems at play. And
Yep.
you think, oh, these are here to protect me. These are here, like, these are good
Right.
for me. And so there is a level of sadness and fear that comes into play that you have to process around these things.
Yes.
Speaking of fear, can you speak on that? Like, what would you recommend to people as we move through these next couple years or many years, maybe our entire lifetime, as the darkness keeps coming to the surface?
I would say, first of all, buy the 20 Universal Ways of Oneness and read the book and start there, honestly. And I'm not saying this to like sell stuff. I mean this from feel my energy, like from the bottom of my heart. I left Western medicine to create the corporation that I created in order to help heal any human, any individual, and any and all parts of humanity. So get the professional help, learn energetic discernment of who you should be listening to and who you should not pay that much attention to. Because if you don't have discernment, which means if you're not a high enough level of consciousness, you think this spiritual thing is the same as that spiritual thing, and you don't know that one of them is really toxic poison and the other is actually there to help heal you and elevate you. So as all these things come to the surface, because they're going to keep coming to the surface, like it's not done. there's more to come up. It's instead of being in fear, we learn, oh, look, I'm in fear. Let me learn what it means to drop into my heart energetically, not some concept. Alchemize, really transform all of these things as it arises inside of me, because that makes me more powerful to handle the things that are maybe very unpleasant in our world that we are going to have to go through. That's true for all of us. And also to handle my personal, individual experiences in life, whatever my life path might be. There's both that we have to deal with. That's not an easy thing. Like the divine souls who have come here incarnated as a human, like we gave a big job for us to do. Every individual has a big job. It's hard to be here in human form. It is not the easiest thing to do or achieve for a soul. It's hard. So remember that, give yourself grace, but never stop doing the real work. Never spiritually bypass and think the more woo-woo you are, that somehow you're doing yourself or anybody any good, because it'll come crashing down. The real work, even if it's scary and hard, that is the best advice I could give to anybody.
Mm.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for this entire conversation. I mean, I feel like I have so much to integrate. I'm excited to listen to this again because I know I'm going to like take in even more. Love your energy, love your presence. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
For anyone listening that wants to work with you, follow your journey, how can they do so?
Yeah, thank you. The best thing is to go to mastersofselfuniversity.com. Best thing. Rachel_Fiori. You can go there to follow me on Instagram and TikTok and all that fun stuff. But you can find me and the other coaches that I've certified in this work at mastersofselfuniversity.com. You can also jump on Amazon and look at and purchase the 20 Universal Ways of Oneness.
Yes,
So
I will
check
link.
that out.
I will link all of that in the show notes. So if you are interested
Thank
in,
you.
yes, Rachel's work, you can check that out. Yeah, your presence is very potent and very grounding, which is why I was first attracted to you, because you express these messages like in this very grounded, digestible, nurturing way. But at the same time, you like, there's no bullshit. You're like, this
Yeah.
is what it is,
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And
Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much.
It's an honor to be here with you, both of you, such beautiful souls. Thank you for what you're doing for the planet. I appreciate you being here with me.
Thank you.
All right, we did it. Good job.
We did it. Thank you, ladies.
That was so good. Yeah, like Danielle said, so much to integrate. We have these conversations and then we're just like, have to go lay in the
in the
sun.
soup.
Yeah, we're like, what just happened? Oh my gosh. But again, it's such an
Yeah.
honor that this is our job and that this is what we get to do, because
I know.
I know we would have never spoken with you, and this is so amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. The alignment is beautiful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, talk about the alignment. Yeah, with the dates, and when you were like whatever, just in the end of March, how you were like, you felt called to talk about this. And I'm like, it had to have aligned somewhere in there.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then how I found you and Ellie at the same time, but didn't know that you guys like worked together.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Really?
I had no idea. And then it was so interesting. And then for Ellie's episode was supposed to come out last week, but it weirdly came out today. And so it's just so interesting how it's
No
all
way.
aligning. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
And
interesting.
I didn't know that you didn't know the two of us were connected
No.
when you reached out.
So
That's
interesting.
crazy. Yeah.
I just found you both on TikTok. So
Oh my God.
yeah.
Oh,
I
that's hilarious.
I know. Talk about surrendering. You're just like, wow, okay. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I
Thank you
know,
for
so
sharing
fun.
that. That's
Of
so exciting
course.
to hear that.
Yeah.
I love to hear the universe lining things up like that. It's so fun for me.
Right? I know. And you're
Yeah.
like, okay. It's just confirmation that everything's as it should be. You know it, but then you have these moments and you're like, ooh, that's so fun.
Exactly. Exactly.
So when it
Oh,
comes to promoting the episode, we'll need to use a couple photos. I don't know if you have them available like on your website or on your Instagram that we can pull from, or if you want to send us specific photos that you want to approve before we post.
I can send you a couple.
Okay.
I'll be happy to
Perfect.
send you a couple. Yep. Let me write it down.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, this was so fun. I'm so excited to release this one. Oh my gosh.
Me too. When will it come out? Do you know?
I think in the next couple of weeks, we have to look at our calendar to get the
Yeah.
exact date.
Yeah. 3 to 4 weeks is what I want to say.
Okay.
I don't have
Yeah.
my calendar in front of
No,
me,
that's okay.
but yeah.
Just so I have an idea. That's fine. Do
Yeah.
you, will you send everything, your promotional stuff to me?
We can. Yeah, if you would like it, we totally can. We'd be happy to. We usually just post it and then we'll tag you, but if you want it yourself, we can totally email it to you.
Yeah, that would be wonderful because I can
Okay.
have Ellie play with that and promote it as well.
So
And put
fun.
it, make sure she puts it on our website and stuff.
Okay, awesome.
will
We'll make a note
do.
of that. Well, thank you so much,
Beautiful.
Rachel. So nice to meet
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it so much. Looking forward to the episode.
Yeah,
Yes.
us too.
All right. See you
Bye.
soon. Bye,
Bye.
guys.